We're going to talk about leadership skills, which can involve difficult people. Okay. Now, there's several different traits of what you can say is different people. One, as most of us know, is the know-it-all. Um, you know, Unfortunately, sometimes they're arrogant and usually have an opinion on every single issue, which I'm pretty sure all of us can kind of relate to that, and we know there's probably some difficult people out there, your boss, a colleague, a friend. Um, when they're wrong, they get defensive. Okay. Now, some things to know is, be prepared and know your stuff. When you're talking about a subject, you know, and you want to be involved in that conversation, just don't try to act like you know what you're talking about if you really don't. And clearly think your thoughts. Um, think through your ideas ahead of time. The know-it-all defense system, monitors incoming information for errors. Know-it-alls will pick up on any shortcomings and use it to discredit your whole idea. Which, sometimes those aren't kind of the people we want to be around. And backtracking respectfully means, you have to do more backtracking or echo back with a know-it-all than any other difficult person. And if you don't backtrack, you run the risk of having to listen to the know-it-alls as they repeat themselves over and over again. So kind of more of an acknowledgement to something that can be done. And blend with doubts and desires. If the know-it-all has doubts about your idea, then there's specific criteria that aren't being addressed, such as the reasons why or why not. Show your idea factors to the know-it-alls with specific criteria into account. And know-it-alls tend to have a finite set of dismissal statements that reflect their highly valued criteria. So they always have kind of their go-to, to kind of dismiss those statements or discredit what you have to say. Present your views indirectly. So proceed quickly, but cautiously while defenses are temporarily down. Use softening words as is maybe, perhaps, and this may be a detour. Bear with me a moment. I was just wondering, what do you suppose? Use plural nouns like we or us over I and you. Those can be kind of aggressive, I or you statements as to we or us. And I can give the know-it-alls a little bit of ownership. Then we have the passives. These people never offer ideas or let you know where they stand. And plan enough time. If you're tense and tense or intense because of limited time, it's the wrong time. Plan ahead. Dealing successfully with passive, people may take a long time. You have to be patient. And ask open-ended questions to these people, the passive people. The best kind of question to ask a passive is one that can't be answered with a yes or no or a grunt. Use questions that begin with words of who, what, when, where, and how, since they tend to open up topics of conversation. And guess. If your passive has remained silent until now, and nothing else has gotten results, or you want an alternative, try this. Put yourself in the passive's shoes and think back, of course, of events as you understand them. So, always putting yourself in somebody else's shoes, always helps kind of understand the whole idea of where they're coming from. And what was the sequence and how else might interpret the sequence or make positive sense out of the negative silence. So, people that are silent don't give ideas. Unfortunately, sometimes we have to kind of grab it out of them, get information out of them. Once you've come up with an idea, suggest it to the passive and watch for a reaction from them. And show the future. So sometimes the only way to get a passive is talking, is to take it out of the moment and into the future. There the passive can see the consequences of continued silence and perhaps find enough perspective and motivation to open up. So those people that kind of are quiet, you want to let them know, by sitting back and not saying anything, there could be some negative consequences. If there's something wrong going on, and they don't speak up, that could fall back on them for not taking initiative to, tell somebody about, a problem. and the dictators, the one and only dictators. So, fortunately, they bully and intimidate. They're consistently demanding and brutally critical. I'm pretty sure we all have a dictator, which could be a boss or somebody above us. And hold your ground. They're the type of people that hold your ground. Stay put and hold your position. Silently look the dictator in the eyes and shift your attention to your breathing. Breathe slowly and deeply. Intentionally breathing helps you regain self-control. And interpret the attack. Knowing that it's a dictator or somebody that kind of intimidates people, you know, you need to understand that there's a possibility of an attack. Not a physical attack, but it could be an emotional attack. And the best way to interpret anyone, whether yelling or not, is to evenly say their name over and over again until they have your full attention. And quickly backtracking to the main point. So, when you have the dictator's attention, which is the backtrack or echo back, the main accusation, be quick about it. The dictator is speaking and thinking at a rapid pace, so blend by speeding things up. So you want to kind of stay one step ahead of them, and also know kind of what you're talking about, because the dictator, just like the know-it-alls, they could kind of attack you in a way. Aim for the bottom line and fire. The bottom line varies according to your situation, but is usually about 2 sentences long. So prefer your bottom line with ownership of it by saying, from my point of view or the way I see it, this prevents you, your shot at the bottom line from, restarting the war. So kind of like using the we and the us statements instead of I and you. A lot of people find that could be a direct attack when you say you. It sounds like you're ridiculing them or you're kind of attacking them. If you say us, it softens the blow, I guess you could say a little bit. And peace with honor. So redirect to a peaceful solution by offering the dictator the last word. Only you decide where and when. So unfortunately, those people, they always want the last word. If you're not a dictator, but your boss is a dictator, let them have the last word. Let them say what they want to say. At the end, at the end of the day, you know that you're right and they're wrong. And the yes people, okay, they agree to any commitment yet rarely deliver. And you can't trust them to follow through. And unfortunately, again, we know all these people that will be always there to say yes, yes, yes. But when you really need them, you really can't count on them. They always come up with unfortunate excuses to counteract that yes that they gave you. And make it safe to be honest. Make the communication environment, a safe one, so you can both be honest. Examine whether promises being made in the future will be promises kept. This could be a one-time long conversation, or may require several meetings over an extended period of time. You can kind of tell these people that say yes but they don't follow through. I have plenty of examples in my life where, I've tried to count on people. They said they'll be there. Unfortunately, they were not. And then kind of, the roles reverse. When they need you, when you say yes and you're there, unfortunately, they don't give back that favor. And help the person learn to plan. So once you've listened to your yes person's point of view, it will be obvious to you why you can't take yes as an answer. This is time to create, learning opportunities by using the past experience as a template. So being a manager, if you have an employee that says yes but doesn't follow through on commitments or late, you need to sit down and have those conversations with them and make sure that, you and that employee are on the same page, understanding that this is, when you set that expectation, the yes people, that's something they need to follow through, and kind of you and that person find a happy medium, or an action plan, and some feedback and coaching as to making sure that those commitments are fulfilled. Ensure commitments. So at the end of the discussion, thank your yes person for taking the problems out with you, and ask, what will you do differently next time we've made that promise to me, or you're not able to carry it out. And once you've received your answer, you must follow through and ensure commitment. Now, making sure you document, conversations with employees, making sure that, they and you are aware that this is a documented, commitment amongst you two, that yes person is going to follow through. And strengthening the relationship. Employees, you want to always make sure that the relationships are strengthened. Make sure they're not deteriorating, and look at every interaction as a chance to strengthen the relationship. So acknowledge the times when your yes people are honest with you about the doubts and concerns. Make every event um, a completed commitment, excuse me, and be very careful of how you deal with broken promises. And again, kind of falls back to ensure those commitments, make sure they're documented, maybe pull those back up, and show that yes person that, hey, you've promised me here, and why haven't we, been showing improvement on this? And the no people. We all know the no people. They're quick to point out why something won't work, what's worse. They're inflexible. They're unfortunately, like everybody likes to call them, the negative Nancy's almost in a way. And one good thing is use the person as a resource. So the no person can serve as two valuable functions. They can be a personal character builder, and they can serve as an early warning system. Okay, and leave the door open. No people tend to operate in a different time reality than other people. Any effort to rush them to a decision will force them to slow down, kind of overwhelming. With enough pushing for action, no people will put enough drag on things to bring them to a complete stop, or become the sand in the gears that eventually destroys the motor. So what that means is by pushing somebody, that has this type of style so hard, it can cause them to literally shut down. You know, and then for example, if you change your mind, let us know, or when you think of a solution, get back to me. So you want to let them know that you want them to think about it and get back to him as soon as possible. Those are the type of people that maybe are more analytical and want to kind of look at things first before they make that rational decision. And go for the polarity response. There are two ways to apply the polarity principle when dealing with no people. The first is to bring up negatives before they do. Unfortunately, again, those are the people that will always try to find the negatives in everything. And the second is just to agree with the hopelessness of the situation and take it one step further. And this may cause the no person to go in the opposite direction. So that being a leader, you have to kind of, steer them back in the right direction and make sure that they're thinking positive and trying to guide them to work as a team. And we have the gripers. Is anything ever right with them? They prefer to complain, or excuse me, they prefer complaining to finding solutions. And the best thing to do is listen for the main points. The last thing you want to do is listen, but then that's just what you need to do with the griper. Listen with the pen and paper to catch the main points of the complaint. Fortunately, we all know these people. They have something to say. They don't like it. They kind of like to know people. They always kind of find a something that's going to cause them to dislike what's going on. Interpret and get specific. So take command of the conversation through a tactical interpretation and ask the griper's help. Then ask clarification questions to get the specifics of the problem, because vague problems are rarely solvable. So you want to make sure you're getting, just like listening for the main points, make sure you're writing them down with, to get to the main point. It's, everything in between, can sometimes be really irrelevant. So if we're trying to get from A to B, anything in between is really irrelevant, and that's something that you have to guide these people to make sure that they understand. And shift the focus to solutions. So instead of focusing on what you can't do, focus on what you can do. Because gripers often complain in vague, cascading generalizations. It's all wrong, but even if it wasn't, nobody cares. They don't stand still with any one problem long enough to stand a chance at problem solving. Once you begin to get specific about each complaint in turn, gripers find themselves face to face with specific problems. So you want to guide these people to really focus on the solution instead of the negatives. So instead of focusing on the negatives, focus on the positives. Sometimes things are out of our control, but as we grow and as being a leader, we have to make sure we're steering the herd per se to that main goal or to that solution, and understand that there might be roadblocks or little speed bumps, but those are something that can be overcome. And draw the line. If backtracking, clarifying, and asking for a direction has not been, not produced any real changes in the gripers, drawing the line becomes necessary. You need to make sure you draw that line. Make sure that, because sometimes gripers, they can bring the whole team down, and that's something that, when you bring a team down, it could really cause further issues down the line. If you're in a production facility, and one section of the production facility has a lot of people complaining, it can slow production down, cause the company to be not meet their goals. Expenses can increase, labor costs can increase due to the lack of the production of those employees. So if your griper gets back on a roll with complaining and it sounds like it isn't going to stop, take charge of the situation and bring it assertively to a close. With these people, you have to take action fast. If you don't, it grows and it grows, and it can unfortunately affect other employees with kind of the negative behavior. Different takeaways that we'll have is, use active listening. Listen to somebody, even if you don't agree with them, listen to them, understand their point of view, and maybe take a second to really put yourself in their shoes, so you can kind of get both sides of the story and have a very positive and professional conversation. So use active listening by paraphrasing and echoing points that you hear. So, which is acknowledgement. You want to acknowledge that you understand where they're coming from, and you don't have to agree with their points, but it helps understand and helps clarify both points of view, and allow time for process. So, with some people and some employees, sometimes you can't rush them. They feel attacked if you don't give them time to really absorb what's going on. You don't rush the results. You need to establish the rapport before you can influence, those people. Build a relationship first, even if their, production is not up to par or there's a problem with that employee. Build a relationship first so they can trust you to where you can provide that feedback and that coaching. And stay focused on a solution. So chunk the problems down. If there's a huge problem, take away the bits and the parts that really don't matter and get down to the bottom. And solving few right-sized problems will help build momentum. And of course, being a leader, don't make it personal. Unfortunately, it's hard to really set aside your personal point of views of somebody that you don't like, and it could be many different reasons. It could be a conflict of interest reason or a personal reason of that person. But being a leader, you have to set that aside, and your biasness, and make sure that that can't be seen out, because being a leader, if people think you're making things personal, you aren't going to be that leader no longer. So one of the challenges when presenting information is to making a point. Which could become an argument, and you don't want that. You want it to become more of somewhat of a debate, a healthy conversation, and every time, you might have a point of view that doesn't, reflect what the other person's point of view is, make sure you're acknowledging that, and again, using those us and we statements instead of the I and you. And decide if it's worth it. Sometimes things can be blown out of proportion. They can get bigger, and it can cause a huge problem down the road. So maybe the homework you have to do to talk intelligent with difficult person isn't worth it. Don't just think short term though. Think long term relationships. You want to build that rapport with that employee. And if something small happens, really analyze it. Is this going to grow into a bigger issue? If not, maybe it doesn't need to really be addressed. And always think of yourself as a mentor. Being a leader. What is a leader? A leader can be, a very famous person, a celebrity. It could be someone that has a lot of money. It could be somebody that doesn't have any money at all. A leader is really the attributes, and the morals that you believe in, and you see that in somebody else. That is what is a leader, and somebody that can guide you to be better of yourself. And just like it says, think of yourself as a mentor, and not everybody is successful at managing priorities or managing what's on their plate or setting expectations, but you want to share what you've learned. If you understand that you're not successful at managing priorities, make sure people, your boss or somebody's aware of those, and maybe they can help you. They can help you, you know, make sure that you're prioritizing things better, or get an action plan, that's gonna help you manage those tasks better and be more productive in the work environment and also in your personal life.